From the OUTV Broadcast Center in Los Angeles, California, this is Brief News Brief, a brief look at today's trending news topics, proudly combating the thought police since 2016. Here's your host, James Heaney.
I'm James Heaney, and this is your Brief News Briefing. Remember when Barack Obama was in office and everyone said, racism is over, hooray! Yeah, do you remember that? Well, over the weekend, a bunch of deplorables, as Hillary Clinton would call them, gathered around, and racism is back for a Nazi rally, white supremacist KKK meeting. Now, I don't want to make it seem like this is some sort of new phenomenon in the country, because clearly it's an old problem. It's a borderline tradition that we have as a country been grappling with since throughout our whole history, since the country began. But tragically, this weekend in Charlottesville, a woman was killed after a man in a car drove through anti-fascist protesters. It's being called an act of terrorism by quite a bit of people. I believe it's an act of terrorism. It is an act of terrorism. He is trying to stop people from peacefully gathering. Now, at first, when this came out, Trump came out and said there was hate and violence on a lot of sides. And he was unwilling to really point out there is a group of deplorables. There are KKK members, they are neo-Nazis and white supremacists. Those people have a lot of hate and they're creating violence. Now, yes, there is some anti-fascism protests and some of those protesters have gotten violent also. I'm not going to deny that. But can we at least agree that at least there is a great number of people protesting peacefully that are simply against hatred and racism? Now, while it was like pulling teeth, finally Trump did come out and say that those were hate groups and he condemned them. But it took him a lot longer than I expected it to. You'd imagine he could have gotten that done with a quick tweet, instantaneously. Mexican authorities have seized 10,000 gallons of bad booze from 31 resorts and hotspots in the country when they recently swept through restaurants and clubs in Cancun and Playa del Carmen. All the confiscated alcohol reportedly came from one company which Mexican officials called out for bad manufacturing practices, one way or the other. The company was not named, which is kind of not cool. If you're going to raid and destroy alcohol, can you at least tell us which one it is, please? Big Ben, the big clock in London, is set to be silenced for 4 years. Desperately needed repairs are going to be carried out on the 158-year-old timepiece. Londoners were not happy to hear the news, though, and there was outrage on Twitter, with many recalling how the hourly bongs, I haven't had hourly bongs since college, the hourly bongs of Big Ben serve as a kind of bass note for their lives. It did for me in college as well. The last gongs of Big Ben, before the long rest, will ring out Monday, August 21st at noon. President Trump wants to know if China is unfavorably profiting from American innovation. Now, this move comes as Trump seeks China's help to rein in North Korea's nuclear program, so maybe it's not a good time to start reviewing whether or not our friendship's working. But the move is incremental. It could eventually lead to the U.S. imposing sanctions. The China Daily newspaper today said that the move could poison relationships between our two countries. Trump basically signed a bill to being a type of investigation or audit of our trade deal with China. And if it's coming up short for America, he could impose sanctions to level out the deal. Now, whether or not that's a good idea, I don't know. I'm not smart. I'm a dummy. I'm a dummy anchor. But I just feel like my gut says maybe right now isn't the time to start roughing up the waters, okay? The review is expected to take months to get to the bottom of, but global uncertainty in the economy can happen instantly. Among multitudes of migrant Mausers in Istanbul, one cool cat called Aslan Parkesi is a movie star. In a city where folks faithfully feed and fondle feral felines, and where casually caressing cruising kitties is common, Aslan is reputed to have a remarkable amount of restraint. Seldom a scrounger, He scratches at pleasant restaurants where stewards serve him smoked seafood. The makers of the movie Kedai cataloged 7 cats coming through the colossal city to chronicle their communications with humans. When you're sitting at a park bench somewhere in Istanbul, a cat usually comes by asking to be petted, just as if it had known you forever. You spend an hour with it, it's very familiar. Then each goes his own way, says the filmmaker. We support something similar in the United States, but it's called Tinder.